Walk with me.
What does the FAANG interview cycle have to do with smart home automations? For those of you that work in big tech, you probably know that getting into one of these large smart tech companies is pretty difficult. For instance, getting into Google is harder than getting into Harvard. Not kidding about that fact. But the question still stands, what does getting into these big tech companies have to do with smart home development? Back when I was a fledgling developer just leaving college, and I remember going through the interview cycles, and it was fascinating the questions that they would ask me. Now, I don't remember the specifics around the question, but one of them went along the lines of, you need to write a function that basically stores some kind of number and then outputs it, or does some kind of calculation and then outputs it again. And then you do it, right? You have your algorithms and then you do what they ask. And then if you do it fast enough and well enough, they start asking you more nuanced questions around that problem. So for example, if let's say your function is supposed to take in, let's say several numbers and then run some kind of calculation. So then they would ask questions like, oh, well, how would you make that faster? And here's where I guess your creativity and experience would come to bear, because then you can say things like you can cache answers, or for instance, if you're taking in numbers, you would store certain parts of it, and then you can, instead of having to compute everything, you can just compute just some of the things. Like, sky's the limits, but the fact is, you have to think creatively about the problem that you're working with and understand that there are trade-offs with how you solve it. Here's what this has to do with smart home development. Right now, everyone is still trying to figure out how to use AI in general, right? In companies, in the smart home space, in your grandma's house, they're trying to figure it all out. And part of figuring it out is answering questions like those. So for instance, using AI within the smart home space, one of the things that I kind of pushed forward was using AI to, let's say, turn on and off lights. And I was creating a contrived example, but I mentioned that doing it by, let's say, a button press, like you press a button and then AI kicks on and then figures out what lights to turn on and off, may not be the best thing to do, because the trade-off is AI is going to take time. It's going to have latency, it can get things wrong, and it may not be the best way to use AI for pressing a button and then turning off and on a light. But now let's add the Google question twist to it. What if you needed to make it faster? What if you wanted to use AI, but yet still you want to make it faster and not have any latency? What do you do? The smart home maker brought up a very fascinating answer. Essentially, if AI is going to take a while to respond to the answer, then why not just use Home Assistant and instantly turn on the light and then wait until the AI resolves itself to change the personality of what the light was supposed to do. So essentially, Home Assistant, which is pretty quick, instantly turn on and off the light, while the personalization aspect, changing the color of the light, changing the brightness of the light, all of that is handled by AI after the fact. That way, the light still works. It still does its core functionality, but the part that makes it nice can happen at a later time, hopefully not too late. For those of you that do software development or work with, let's say, front-end technologies, this is very similar to progressive loading. You have, let's say, when the page loads the initial content that's above the paint, above the fold, and then everything underneath the fold is loaded afterwards. Like, you can defer that until later. That way you have the fastest response. Everything that the user needs to do is there, and everything that is extra or that can wait happens afterwards. This can apply to other facets, like, for instance, using local AI versus, let's say, some public third-party AI. Some automations may require it to be local and private, whereas others can be faster and more open, and it doesn't really matter. It can even be used for things like reliability, or to tackle the reliability problem. As a matter of fact, you've kind of seen this already within Home Assistant, where they give you the ability to have it talk locally first, and then it falls back to AI if local isn't able to handle the request. that's a reliability problem that it's solving. Here's my point. As we get deeper into this whole AI realm and having it merge with every consciousness of life, whether it's websites, apps, or whatever the case may be, we're gonna see new paradigms and ways of which we're working with AI. Right now, things seem pretty normal, status quo at this point. Like, we're kind of going through the rounds of it, but I suspect that we're gonna start to see new dynamics with how we can work with it. And the same way that we have progressive loading and fallbacks, we're gonna have new ways of working with AI that's gonna make it easier, more safer, palatable. I'm not entirely sure what to call it, but it's gonna make it more enticing for us to work with. So I guess, what's holding you back currently from using AI?